He's one of the smartest guys in this league.
It's going to be whatever to help our team win. And I think I've at least tried to show or proven that my entire career. So
NBA Media Day was an absolute frenzy, and when we weren't paying attention to the Miami Heat, there was one storyline that I was following in particular, and that was that of the Golden State Warriors. And what the Golden State Warriors revealed on that day completely changes everything for this franchise. I don't think we're gonna see a typical Golden State Warriors season, and even Steve Kerr himself said that the lineup is going to shock some people. So before we get to the content, make sure you drop like, subscribe, and turn on our notifications to help the channel grow. We are on the grind to 900,000 subscribers, about 60K away. Now that we got all of that out of the way, cue the intro. My friends, we had a
legendary weekend on Prize Picks.
Your boy personally made $700, and I only missed 2 out of 11 of my picks. And you guys hit me up in the DMs and let me know about it. We're about to ramp it up for this week. Remember, you get a $100 deposit match on Prize Picks when you use my promo code microphone, and I post my picks onto my Instagram story at TheFlightMike for free each and every day that there's a football game. And thank you, Prize Picks, for the sponsor. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? This past Golden State Warriors offseason was filled with drama. Whether it was Draymond Green indirectly threatening the fact that he will leave the Golden State Warriors, all the way to the drama that the Golden State Warriors were experiencing with Jordan Poole. The writing was on the wall. This year's Golden State Warriors team wasn't nearly as competitive as the one that won the NBA championship. It seemed like the moment that Andrew Wiggins and Jordan Poole fulfilled their prophecy of,
Hey, you about to get a bag. You about to get a bag. No. You about to get a bag. We about to get a bag.
Things started to crumble. Whether it was between Jordan Poole not being his usual self, especially during the Golden State Warriors playoff series, the fact that Bob Myers stepped down as the general manager, which may have given us an insight to what the future of the Golden State Warriors may look like, to the fact that Draymond Green could have left during free agency, and all the way down to the fact that Klay Thompson might leave during next free agency. This team wasn't without its hiccups, and there's never been more on the line for this core of Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond Green than there is now. But the Warriors responded remarkably. I mean, trading Jordan Poole to the Washington Wizards so they could receive Chris Paul was an incredible way to keep the team competitive, but essentially swapped out one piece of drama for another. What do I mean by that? There's no question in anyone's mind. Chris Paul is a first ballot Hall of Famer, whether he gets a ring on his finger or not. But you have to admit, it's a little peculiar trading for one of the top rivals of the Golden State Warriors for the past decade. And immediately, the Golden State Warriors didn't really pull any punches as a result of this trade. As a matter of fact, following the trade, when Draymond Green was asked how much he disliked Chris Paul, he said, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's an 11. I hated him. 11. I think that's also a sign of respect. Talking on both ends of the floor, working the referees, working our coach, and working players in the middle of every tussle, battling, elbowing, nasty. Of course, you're gonna hate him as an opponent, and if you don't, guess what? You'll lose to him. We've seen a bunch of guys lose to him as well. So whether or not Chris Paul and the Golden State Warriors could get along was going to be a huge question. And if there's something that added fuel to the fire of whether or not Chris Paul and the Warriors would be able to get along was, what would Chris Paul's role be? This isn't the first time Chris Paul got traded to a team that already had dominant guard play. He found a lot of success when he was traded to the Houston Rockets in 2017, but in 2017, Mike D'Antoni was essentially trying to retool his offensive system around James Harden. The 7 seconds or less Phoenix Suns were dominant because of the Steve Nash, Amari Stoudemire pick and roll. Mike D'Antoni was trying to recreate that system with James Harden in 2016. Instead of utilizing the pick and roll with James Harden, you utilized the basic play that James Harden was the most dominant at, and that's isolation. So the theory was, if you add Chris Paul, who is a dominant pick and roll ball handler throughout his career, alongside James Harden, then you would essentially get the greatest Houston Rockets season of the 2010s. And essentially that's what would happen. This time, Chris Paul isn't necessarily being plugged into a system that is built for him. Instead, he is here to serve as a complementary piece, and there's a huge question about what that starting lineup is going to look like. And Chris Paul didn't do anyone any favors when he said this about 3 months ago.
Okay, well, I don't know what the situation is going to be yet, you know what I mean? So I think that'll be for us to figure out once we get going.
You've never come off the bench your entire career. Is that something that you'd be willing to do?
Like I said, it'll be a conversation for us when camp starts or whatnot, but me and Steve have talked or whatnot, but that ain't something that you'd be like, what up, man, where you start, you coming up, you know what I mean? So I think we'll figure all that stuff out in camp.
So this has been a dark cloud that was hovering over the Golden State Warriors throughout the entire offseason. It was the right move to make, moving on from Jordan Poole and bringing in Chris Paul, but there are still some things that are worth working out. And fortunately, it seems like following Media Day, things are starting to trend upward slightly, I think. I mean, here's what Draymond Green had to say about his relationship with Chris Paul during Media Day.
Conversations with him, with Chris over the last couple months that I haven't necessarily had, not only with Chris, but just in my career. Chris, and I've said this before too, on the record, he's one of the smartest guys in this league. When you talk basketball IQ, I've said on record, Chris Paul, LeBron James, Ray John Rondo and Rondo, like I've said that on record a million times.
Draymond Green would continue on by saying,
basketball geeky at times. I love the game of basketball. I think one of my best attributes as a basketball player is my IQ. And so, in speaking to a high IQ guy like Chris, for me, that's everything. Like, that's gold. And we've been able to share in those conversations. We've been able to share in a bunch of conversations. We've been collaborative on things.
So I guess Warrior fans are a little bit more comfortable after hearing this.
Things that you do with teammates, we've been doing. And in doing that, you start to get to know people outside of just what you're doing as far as basketball goes. And I've started to get to know Chris better. I didn't know Chris at all outside of competing with him. If you've ever watched Chris compete, he's kind of an asshole. You may say the same thing about me. And that's okay.
But at the same time, you have to wonder if this is just the Warriors trying to get off to the right foot and trying to bury any type of beef that has already been existing. If you ask me, if you're Chris Paul and you're close to 40, at this point, you're doing whatever it possibly takes to win a ring. So I don't think there's going to be a lot of drama between Draymond Green and Chris Paul. But then you remember that Draymond Green is the individual that started a huge beef with Kevin Durant, despite the Warriors having one of the most dominant starting fives in NBA history. Draymond Green punched the living crap out of Jordan Poole, despite Jordan Poole being the X factor that helped the Golden State Warriors win the NBA Finals during the 2022 season. So there are a lot of questions about whether or not Draymond Green and the fact that he's a wild card could affect the Warriors in their ability to win another championship this year. But at the same time, Chris Paul is a veteran. He seems like a very savvy veteran. So when he was asked about whether or not he would care about coming off the bench, he gave a response that I actually believe and I think is music to every Golden State Warriors fans' ears. Watch.
I actually had an opportunity in 2008 to come off the bench for the Olympic team, you know what I mean, and that went pretty well. And I think anybody who knows me knows that I'm all about winning. You know what I mean, whatever I can do to help our team win. So I know coaching us, we're going to talk about it and see what it looks like. We've been hooping all summer, and I think, for the season, it's going to be whatever to help our team win. And I think I've at least tried to show or proven that my entire career. So
you know what this kind of reminds me of? It reminds me of the very first championship that the Warriors won in the Steph Curry era. The year that Steve Kerr decided to tell Andre Iguodala, hey, sorry, but you have to come off the bench. Andre Iguodala swallowed his pride, came off the bench, and his career experienced a huge renaissance. Andre Iguodala was originally known as being a very athletic small forward, but once he got traded to the Golden State Warriors and established himself as a small ball forward that could pretty much guard any position in that lineup and was key for those switches that the Warriors made on defense, this extended his career easily by another 7 years. And it seems like Chris Paul is very understanding that this could essentially be him. If he wants to win a championship, he needs to make the ultimate sacrifice. But the ultimate sacrifice might not be what Chris Paul thinks, because Steve Kerr already revealed a very surprising lineup plan that definitely has some of us scratching our heads. This has a lot to do with Klay Thompson, and it gives us an idea of what Chris Paul's role on this team is going to be, because Steve Kerr just announced that, well, listen to Steve Kerr himself.
Klay, if we play that lineup that I talked about Saturday to start, which I'm anticipating doing, as I said, barring injury, Klay would guard the four-man. That's he's so physically strong. He's so used to guarding post-up players after switches. So we're thinking Klay can guard as a four this year. We're going to put him in coverage, where he's having to defend pick and roll as a four. That would be a different job for him. But we're planning on doing some of that and seeing how he does.
So if Klay Thompson is playing the 4 position to start out the year, we're looking at a scenario that either Kevon Looney is going to be at the 5 because Draymond Green is going to be injured to start out the year. You have Kevon Looney starting at center, Klay Thompson at power forward, Andrew Wiggins at small forward, Steph Curry at shooting guard, and Chris Paul at the point guard position. I think that's definitely something worth exploring, and I feel like once Draymond Green comes back, it'll be interesting to see how they run with Draymond Green playing the center position, Klay Thompson playing power forward, Andrew Wiggins at small forward, Steph Curry at shooting guard, and Chris Paul at point guard. On one hand, you could get away with this lineup for a lot of teams in the NBA. There should be a lot of matchups where a 6'7" Klay Thompson could hold his own. But the thing that makes me a little concerned is Klay Thompson hasn't necessarily been the greatest defender in the NBA since returning from his torn ACL and his torn Achilles. As a matter of fact, for the majority of his career, Klay Thompson hasn't necessarily been known for his defense, but his defense really started falling off of a cliff following his torn ACL and his torn Achilles. So I don't necessarily think this is a lineup that the Warriors could run with consistently with each and every team, but I feel like if there's a team that likes to go small, they could get away with this, especially in the earlier part of the season while they wait to figure out what Draymond Green's fate is going to be. At the end of the day, I think this is worth experimenting with. Worst case scenario, you run the same lineup you were running last year and have Chris Paul come off the bench as a 6th man. I mean, at the end of the day, do we really think that Chris Paul is in a position where he could play 30 minutes per game? He's going into his age 38 season. So maybe taking some miles off of him could pay off in terms of trying to keep him healthy and rested when it comes time for the NBA playoffs. Let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this. If you're a Warriors fan, does Chris Paul's interview put you guys to rest a little bit, or are you still a little concerned? Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.